to KNBR's Giants Warmup.
Way back there. Goodbye!
On the Sports Leader.
Welcome into the KNBR Warm-Up Show. My name is Bill Lasky, taking place of the great Kerry Crowley. He'll be in tomorrow to do the warm-up show. Got a great show lined up for you until we get to see that first pitch at 6:05 when Landon Roop takes the hill against Clay Holmes for the New York Mets. But a couple of things happened earlier today. Tyler Fitzgerald, who was DFA'd earlier the week, got traded to the Toronto Blue Jays for cash considerations. And what happened earlier this week, the Giants picked up Dylan Smith, a 25-year-old right-hander from the Detroit Tigers. Last year, he was in the big leagues. He threw 13 innings, had a 1.38 earned run average, 4 strikeouts, 5 walks. He got DFA'd, so the Giants picked up another right-hander. He is now with the Sacramento River Cats. Also, earlier in the week, if you didn't notice, Luis Matos was traded to the Milwaukee Brewers for cash considerations. Both Tyler Fitzgerald and Luis Matos both came up through the Giants organization. An injury that happened recently, Jose Budo was diagnosed with a blood clot in his right arm. He had successful surgery yesterday. We'll find out more about that as he gets back into the locker room. And Blade Tidwell was called up from the River Cats to take his place. All right, let's take a look at what happened this week coming up to leading into today's game. Of course, the Yankees came to town the first 3 games, disappointing 3 games for the San Francisco Giants. They lost all 3. And on Monday, they traveled to the San Diego Padres to play the Padres. And what a great game Landon Roop threw there. Of course, he is pitching today. Roop went 6 innings, only giving up 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. And the Giants prevailed for their first win of the 2026 season, winning that game 3-2, 3 runs, 6 hits for the Giants, 2 runs, 3 hits for the Padres. And they had a nice roll going on Tuesday. Logan Webb took the hill, got behind early, but the Giants prevailed and ended up getting 9 runs on 16 hits. And they ended up pounding the Padres that day, 9-3. Logan Webb goes 6 innings, 3 hits, 3 earned runs. But here was the big number, 104 pitches he threw in that game, 61 for strikes, but he ended up getting the win, and he's 1-1. On Wednesday, they played a day game. And, boy, Adrian Hauser pitched extremely well that day. He went 5 1/3, gave up 7 hits, only 1 earned run, a couple miscues on the infield cost him that game, and the Giants ended up losing that one 7-1. Jose Budo came in later in that game, gave up 4 earned runs. So then the Giants came home after winning a series with the San Diego Padres. They had a good feeling with them. And the first night, Thursday, Robbie Ray took the hill and threw a good game. I mean, he battled through the first couple of innings, but he got through it. He went 5 1/3 innings, giving up 3 hits, 2 earned runs, a home run by Vientos, but he managed to stay in the game. He ended up throwing 96 pitches in that game, and the Giants won that game 7-2. Some really good hitting. Of course, Rafael Devers hit his first home run in that game. Arise was 2 for 5. Chapman was 2 for 5. And Casey Schmidt, who is out again today with back stiffness, he had a nice game, 3 for 3. And all of a sudden, who comes up? Daniel Susac. A start on Thursday he'll never forget. He goes 3 for 3, gets a walk, his first major league game, and what an experience he had with his family in the stands, as well as another rookie, Blade Tidwell, threw 3 innings, got the save in that game, really pitched well, 3 innings, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts. So both the rookies had a big part of that game, and it brings into yesterday's game. A tough game as New York Mets put their hitting shoes on, ended up getting 15 hits in that game, 10 runs on 15 hits. Tyler Mahle was touched up early in that game. First 3 hitters, 3 base hits, ended up giving up 2 runs, 4 hits in that first inning. And then he settled down in the second and third inning, and he had 2 nice innings. But the 4th inning got the chase, a base hit and a home run by Marcus Semien, of course, Northern California owned. He went to Cal, hit his first home run, a 2-2 fastball that was up, drove it out to center field, 407 feet, and it opened up the games for the Mets. 2 hitters later, Francisco Alvarez stepped up to the plate, Hit the first pitch, a splitter by Maley, and he knocked it out of the yard. He ended up hitting 2 home runs in yesterday's game, his second and third of the year. The Giants just couldn't get anything going. Of course, Nolan McLean was on the hill for the Mets. He went 5 innings, 15 up, 15 down, and he really had a 3-pitch mix. A fastball about 97 miles an hour, a sinker about 94. The cutter was his pitch that he got crisp pitches on, and the Giants just couldn't manage a hit or even a walk for 5 innings. Had a perfect game for 15 up, 15 down, 5 innings he threw. And then the 6th inning, a couple walks. They got a run in, a couple runs in the 6th, and it was just too far behind for the Giants to catch up in that game. And they ended up losing it 10-3. They're now 3-5, and the New York Mets are 4-4. So it brings up to today's game, 6:05, a couple right-handers pitching. Landon Roop is on the hill for the Giants. He pitched a real good game, as I said, on Monday. So he's on the hill. He's 1-0, no runs. In that game, he threw 88 pitches, 54 for strikes. I loved what he did here. He mixed a lot of pitches up, his sinker, his cutter, his curveball, his changeup. 4 really good pitches, and Patrick Bailey really moved him around well in this pitch selection. And he's going up against Clay Holmes. Now, Clay Holmes last year had a good year for the New York Mets. He pitched in 33 starts. He was 12-8 with a 3.5 earned run average. A couple years prior, if you remember, he was in the Yankee bullpen as one of their closers. So the right-hander, the 33-year-old, is going to take the mound for the New York Mets today. So that's going to be a 6:05 start. Got a good show lined up today. Of course, you can always call 415-808-KNBR. Phone lines are always open during the warm-up show. I'm going to sit down with Mike Puma. That's right, Mike Puma. He is a senior writer for the New York Post. He covers the Mets. We're going to talk about Carlos Mendoza and the pressure that he's under this year, a whole new coaching staff. And when you look at this roster, the Mets have a lot of new faces, some veteran players, and man, $400 million in salaries. That is a lot of bread to throw out there to try to change what's happening for the New York Mets. At 4 o'clock, Ben Ross is going to sit in with me and talk. Of course, you can see him on Channel 4. He's one of the hosts over there and does a great job for the sporting department on Channel 4. And then at 4:30, Mark Abanas, of course, he's retired. As he says, I'm a coach from the couch. And I'll catch up with him to find out what he feels about the Giants in their first 8 games. And a little more Giants talk as we continue in the next couple hours of the warm-up show before we get to the Giants pregame show. 415-808-KNBR. We want to get on the phone lines. We'll come back with lineups and more on the warm-up show with Bill Lasky taking over for Kerry Crowley today, right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
KNBR Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the Sports Leader. KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Lasky keeps the postgame rolling live.
Three and two the count to Willie Adames. Devers on deck. The pitch. Swing, and there's a drive into right center field. That's into the gap. It's heading for the wall. It is gone! Or is it? Did it get stuck? I thought it hit the wall and then there was no carom. It must have gotten stuck beneath the wall, underneath the padding out there. So only
all right, welcome back to the warm-up show. John Miller couldn't see it. It bounced over the right center field wall. That was a 3-2 cutter that Nolan McClain was last pitch he threw. And the Giants had 2 walks on the field. On 2 walks prior to that, only one got to score because it bounced over and ended up getting another run in on a pass ball. The Giants ended up getting 2 runs in that inning. That was in the 6th inning, but they just couldn't get closer to the New York Mets as the Mets scored 3 runs in the top of the 7th and opened it up. And the Giants end up losing 10-3. They only had 5 hits in that game, 2 by Elliot Ramos, 1 by Luis Ariz. He also had an RBI in the 8th inning. And Willie Adames ended up going 1 for 3 with an RBI. In this game, Juan Soto started the game. He ended up getting a base hit in that 1st inning. He came out of the game right after the top of the 1st inning with calf tightness, and he was supposed to get an MRI done this morning, and he might be on the shelf. They're talking about possibility IL and him. We have not got a Mets lineup up yet, but we're going to talk about what Tony Vitello is going to throw out here for the Giants. So we can discuss what they're doing against Clay Holmes today and talk about some of the hitters that really have hit well off of him in past years. So let's start it off. Tony Vitello, of course, 3-5 on their early season, is going to lead off with the shortstop, the 30-year-old Willie Adames. He's hitting .226, 7 for 31, 1 home run, 3 RBIs. Now, at the end of each one of these, I'm going to tell you how well they do against Clay Holmes. He's 2 for 4 against him. Batting second, the 29-year-old Rafael Devers. He's also hitting .226. He's also 7 for 31. He'll be designated hitter today with a home run and an RBI. He's done very well against Holmes. He's 3 for 10 with a home run. Batting third, the 26-year-old Elliot Ramos. He is batting in the 3rd spot, playing left field. Could you believe this? The top 3 hitters are all 7 for 31. That's Adames, Devers, and Ramos. Every one of them 7 for 31. Elliott had 2 hits yesterday, 2 RBIs on the season, 2 for 4 also off Clay Holmes. Luis Ariz is hitting in the 4th spot. The 28-year-old will be playing second base. He's hitting .313 on the young season, 10 for 30, and or 10 for 31, I should say, 3 RBIs. A good number against Clay Holmes, 3 for 7 against them, hitting .429 off the right-hander. Matt Chapman will be hitting in the 5th spot. He'll be playing third base, the 32-year-old, hitting .194. Yeah, he's not hitting really well. 3 for 11 right now, hitting the ball hard, but he's not getting the balls to drop in. He's hit 1 home run, 3 RBIs, 3 for 11 against Holmes. And then you start looking at down the order, and this is where the order has to start coming together. Jung-Hoo Lee hitting .148, a 27-year-old is going to play right field. No home runs, 4 RBIs, no stolen bases, 4 for 20 or 4 for 23, 4 for 27 on the season, 0 for 2 against Clay Holmes when he faced them earlier last year. Harrison Bader hitting 7th. He's hitting $143. 4 for 28 on the season. He'll be playing center field. 1 home run, 3 RBIs. He's 3 for 5 off Clay Holmes. Patrick Bailey back in the crouch today. He's hitting 8th. A tough start for Patrick Bailey, 2 for 21 on the young season, .095 batting average. The 26-year-old's only got 1 RBI. He's faced Holmes a couple times, got a hit. He'll be catching Landon Roop today. And Gerard Encarnacion is going to play first base as Casey Schmidt still has tightness in his lower back. He started a nice double yesterday, 1 for 4 in the young season. hitting .250. The 28-year-old will be playing first base. So you have Adames, Devers, Ramos, Arise, Chapman, Lee, Bader, Bailey, and Encarnacion. That's the lineup that Tony Vitello is throwing out there. And I talk about this, their batting average. It's a young season. We know that, 8 games. But this is where I thought the Giants would really prevail in getting more runs, more hits, especially out of some of these veteran hitters. And, you know, when you look at what Tony Vitello is doing, he's trying to keep that same lineup out there. And if you could hear the numbers that I threw out there, a lot of them at 30, 31 at-bats, 28, 29 at-bats, and he's keeping it steady. He's keeping it to the core of the players. That's what he's doing. It's a different style of managing. It's a different style of using players. If you look at what he's done in the bullpen, he has not made any specific jobs for certain guys. In a press conference earlier this week, he says, hey, if it's hot in the middle of the game, I'm going to go to one of my hot pitchers to put the fire out. I will piece this bullpen together as each game goes on. It's a whole different style how you use the bullpen. You got to think about it. You got to think of different ways of doing. Philosophies are different with a new coaching staff. Buster Posey's also in there giving his 2 cents. You also have Bruce Bochy, Dusty Baker, Ron Washington, Ron Wotus. All the older guys with their styles are now listening to what Tony Vitello's doing. It's interesting, and it's interesting to see how he's pacing this first 8 games. It's been the same lineups, not guys playing. Of course, Encarnacion's in because Schmidt's been out. But Schmidt got hot pretty good. He had a nice game on Thursday, going 3 for 3, and then he injured his lower back. Don't know the severity of it, but we'll find out as each game goes on to see how long it's going to take him to get back in this lineup. The Giants have today and tomorrow against the New York Mets, and then the Phillies come in for 3 games. So that's going to be an interesting series. And then they fly out to Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Washington, a 9-game road trip. It's really going to test the road trip. And now you're going to go back east and in the Midwest. And today there was a couple rainouts in Cleveland. Yesterday it was in Chicago. So now the weather's changing in the Midwest and the East, colder weather. Then you got a lot of rain, so the climate's going to change for the Giants once they get on the road trip. But, you know, you look at this New York Met team, and this Met team really surrounds themselves around some core players. Francisco Lindor, who had a hamate bone taken out of his hand. He was limited through spring training. He has not started off well. He's hitting under 200. Juan Soto, who they put big money in, of course, he's injured right now, the calf tightness. We don't know how far that's going to go. Bo Bichette, some big money they threw to him, 3 years, over $100 million. He came out swinging yesterday. He went 3 for 5. And first pitch hitter, boy, he has got to be one of the hitters that you have to be really careful about in the first pitch you threw. Tyler Mahle, the first pitch he threw in the first inning, base hit to right center field. In the third inning, he led off the inning, first pitch, base hit up the middle. He is an aggressive hitter. He's the kind of guy that's going to swing as hard as he can and try to knock it out of the park. When you see his free swing style, he really puts a lot of effort into it. And Lester had one of his best games, 3 for 5 yesterday with an RBI. Luis Robert Jr., he picked up from the Chicago White Sox. Of course, years ago, the Giants were really talking about picking him up in a trade. A lot of money he threw into him, and the Mets picked him up to play center field. Now you start seeing some of the new guys in this lineup. Bichette, Robert. And then you look at Simeon, who we knew from the Oakland A's days, went to Texas, and then got traded to the New York Mets. Simeon, of course, went to Cal, a local kid, really a nice guy. I've known Marcus for many years, and yesterday he had a nice day, going 3 for 5. He's been hitting under 200, and they put a lot of money in Simeon's contract, and he's still making some money off that long contract he had with the Texas Rangers. Francisco Alvarez, a 24-year-old catcher that the Mets have really put a lot of time in to be their number 1 catcher. He was hitting under 200. These guys all had some bad first 6 games. Yesterday they broke out of it, and they were swinging. And, man, and you look what Alvarez did, 2 home runs, 2 times up. He hit a 0-0 split, and then he hit a home run on a 3-2 fastball from J.T. Brubaker. And this is the bottom of the lineup. When you look at what the lineup did, is Vientos, Simeon, and Alvarez, 7 for 13 yesterday, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs. And that's what I'm saying about the Giants. The bottom of the order has to start producing a little bit better. When you look at Jung-Hoo Lee, Boehner, Bailey, and now Encarnacion's going to be batting ninth. He's got some power, but they got to make contact. And I think that's one of the things when you look at what's happened to this team. Yesterday, the first 5 innings, they couldn't even get a hit. They put the ball in play, just didn't work out. The strikeouts were up earlier in the season. Now they're putting a little better hitting, making hits and putting the ball in play, but they're not getting on base, I should say. That's what I'm trying to say here. They need to get on and get this thing rolling. Had a couple good games in San Diego where they had 16 hits. Of course, Thursday they had 13 hits, stymied yesterday. So today is a big day. I believe this offense has to come together to go after Clay Holmes. So we'll find out a little bit more and talk a little bit as the show continues. But next up, I sit down. And really a good interview coming up. I've known Mike for many years. Mike Puma, a senior writer for the New York Post. He's in town. And I'm going to give him a call and see what he has to say about the New York Mets and get some information, of course, on Clay Holmes. So that's coming up next right here on the Warm-Up Show. Mike Puma and I will discuss the New York Mets. That's right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Welcome back to our KNBR Giants warm-up on the Sports Leader.
Welcome back to the KNBR warm-up show with Bill Lasky. My guest today is the senior sports writer for the New York Post, covering the New York Mets. Let's welcome in Mike Puma today. How are you today, Mike?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good myself, and a good game up on tap today, 6:05 first pitch. As the Mets started this road trip, they lose 2 out of the 3 to the Cardinals. They come into San Francisco. They lose the first one 7-2, but boy, did they wake up last night, scoring 10 runs on 15 hits, an aggressive hitting attack by the Mets.
Yeah, and it's something they really needed here because the lineup over the first week was scuffling. Bo Bichette, Marcus Semien, just a couple of the guys who were struggling, hitting under 200. And last night we saw both of them really get into the action. Bichette had a three hit game, as did Semien. Semien hit a home run. They got a couple of bombs from Francisco Alvarez. So this was really kind of the offensive awakening they needed.
Boy, Mike, they didn't stop too quickly. They came at Tyler Mahle really quick in the first inning, getting 3 straight hits. And of course, as you said, Bo Bichette getting that third knock, knocking the first run in. And they continued on to that barrage in the first inning, going through 8 hitters. An aggressive lineup yesterday. What was the difference?
Yeah, and that's the kind of lineup they really have here, putting the ball in play. And now we got to, we're going to wait and see what happens with Juan Soto here. That he left the game in the first inning with calf tightness. I think the expectation is right now that he's going to be on the shelf for a while. So we'll know more at some point today, but. This lineup is one that's really predicated on putting the ball in play. They sacrificed some power by not bringing back Pete Alonso over the winter, who signed with Baltimore. They brought in guys like Bichette and Semien and Luis Robert Jr. and they just want to lengthen that lineup, string hits together.
Mike Puma joining me on the warm-up show. We got to look at the starter yesterday. Nolan McLean really dialed in for the first 5 innings, 15 up, 15 down. A really high max kind of guy. He mixed in 6 different pitches. He really relied on the fastball and the sinker and the cutter, 3 hard pitches. What did you see out of him yesterday? Because he was dialed in for the first 5.
And he really was, and he was down on himself a little bit after the game, which is kind of hard to believe for a guy who took a perfect game in the 6th inning. But he said his cutter was really the only thing that was working for him for most of the night. He wasn't too happy with his other pitches, and he was getting behind in counts. Even so, he went into that 6th inning at 67 pitches, which isn't awful. But in that final inning there that he pitched, the 6th inning, he did get deep in the counts, and the Giants put some really good at bats against him, fouled some pitches off, and were able to get him out of the game. But you look at this kid, and the spin rate and the movement on his pitches, and at times you're just like, wow, unbelievable.
Well, his first start against Pittsburgh, he did the same thing. 90-some pitches he threw in that game. And again today, when you're looking at yesterday's game, 93 pitches, 54 for strikes. He got behind a few hitters, 3-0, 3-0, battled back. As you said, he brought the cutter back in to get back in the strike zone. A couple walks in the 6th inning, chased him. But yet, when you look at an overall game from him, a pretty good outing for Nolan.
Yeah, and the Mets are this is they brought in Freddie Peralta to be the ace of this rotation. Just I think in the sense it takes some pressure off Nolan McLean, but you look at the highest upside on this staff, and it's McLean. Peralta's a very good pitcher, but they look at McLean as somebody who can be elite special.
Mike Puma joining me on the warm-up show. Carlos Mendoza changed a lot in his coaching staff this year, along with this roster. How has he been going on this early part of the year with a new coaching staff?
Yeah, here because the front office gutted the coaching staff at the conclusion of last season, got rid of just about everybody, and you bring in Kai Correa as the bench coach, a guy there's some familiarity out here from his time with the Giants, and he was really the first hire they brought in the offseason to the new staff, and they looked at him for what he could do to help the Mets improve defensively, and that's something that was talked about a lot this offseason by President of Baseball Operations David Stearns is runs prevention, because he felt last year's team, especially down the stretch, was shaky defensively. So they brought in Kai Correa as part of that movement toward runs prevention. Went out and got new players. Marcus Semien, a Gold Glove winner at second base, and Luis Robert Jr., who's a very good center fielder when he's healthy. So they improved up the middle, but back to the point of the coaching staff, yeah, it takes some time to gel here because you're talking about an entirely new staff.
Well, Mike, you look at Carlos Mendoza. Do you think there's a lot more pressure on him this year since last year wasn't that great of a year for the Mets? This year, they put a lot more money into the payroll, as you say, over $300 million with some of these players after you look at all the salaries. Do you think there's a little bit more pressure on him to win this year? Do you think it's a possibility if he doesn't, he might be ousted?
Yeah, I think he has to win this year. He has to get them into the playoffs and probably deep into the playoffs with this team they put together. And yeah, the payroll is high, and then you add into it the competitive balance tax. It pushes the expenditures out to around $400 million. What team owner Steve Cohen is spending here. So Mendoza's got to win this year. I think he knows it. I think everybody knows it, and certainly, you don't want to bury yourself in April and trying to climb out of it all season. You have to get off to a respectable start here, and we'll see if last night was the first step for them toward getting on track.
Mike, a player named Francisco Lindor, a good shortstop, again, struggling coming out of the gate hitting wise. He's in a 10-year, $340 million contract. A player that they need to excel, playing shortstop on the defensive end, leading off as a switch hitter. Again, complications coming out of the season, beginning of the season, not hitting the ball as well as he thinks. What do you think some of the issues are with him?
Yeah, well, just from the get-go in spring training, he came in and had hamate bone surgery, so he missed just about all of spring training. Finally, got into some games the last week of the Grapefruit League, so he's a little behind schedule here, and he's been a notorious slow starter throughout his career. He was actually pretty decent last year, but uh, throughout his Mets tenure for sure, it's been marked by slow starts. So that is nothing new in that regard. He has been getting on base pretty well, even though the batting average isn't there. So we're only just over a week into it, but those are the factors I would point to. Just coming off the surgery rehab that cost him most of spring training, and the fact that he has been a slow starter with the Mets.
Mike Puma joining me on the warm-up show. Of course, he covers the Mets on the New York Post. You talk about Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette was a guy that everybody thought was going to go back to Toronto. The Mets came in and swooped him up on a 3-year deal, $126 million deal. This guy swings hard every time. Yesterday, first two pitches he saw from Tyler Mahle, both nice hits. He's aggressive. He's a guy that goes up there swinging for the fences, and he should. He's a power hitter. Again, he started off slow. The Mets fans weren't real happy with him in that first homestand. This is a guy that's going to lead the pack in the middle, batting third, RBI kind of guy. The Mets pretty happy with this deal.
Yeah, they are, and they made a strong play to try and get Kyle Tucker in the off season. And when Tucker went to the Dodgers, the Mets pivoted immediately and signed Bo Bichette to the 3-year contract, 126 million. Now it's got an opt out after this season, but they brought him in. He's learning a new position here at third base. They like, he, as you say, he's a throwback. He likes to put the ball in play. He looks at his batting average. He wants to hit 300. That's something that's important to him. He wants to win a batting title. This is a good hitter that they went out and got. And he did, his first few games with the Mets weren't great, and he heard some boos actually after his third game at home at Citi Field. But the last couple of days here, he's starting to put it together a little bit.
The closer position in a bullpen, Diaz goes to the Dodgers, and the Mets pick up Devin Williams, a pitcher that's been bounced around a little bit from the Brewers to the Yankees. What do they see in him? Do they think he can revitalize what he had with the Brewers as one of the best relievers?
Yeah, they really do, and they look at his underlying numbers. Even last year his ERA wasn't great with the Yankees, and he had some rough outings. But they look at the underlying numbers and see that the stuff is still there. And this is a guy that David Stearns, the president of baseball operations, he has familiarity with him from Milwaukee. They like him a lot, and they think he will be that ninth inning presence after losing Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers in the offseason.
A few more minutes with Mike Puma, who covers the New York Mets. Let's take a look at the starter today, Mike. Clay Holmes had a good outing against St. Louis. He throws 5 2/3, gets up 4 hits, gives up a home run, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Threw the ball very well, up to 90 pitches, 57 strikes. What do you see out of him coming in today's game?
Yeah, and he's the guy who last year made the transformation from bullpen to starting pitcher, and he did a nice job for it. Did a nice job with it. He pitched in the WBC this year in spring training, so he's becoming a dependable guy in this rotation. He's certainly not a top of the rotation guy, but a good solid middle of the rotation presence. Relies a lot on the sinker. He wants to get ground balls. Last year one issue was a little bit working deep into games. He didn't get especially early on. He didn't get as deep as the Mets would have hoped. But down the stretch, he was dependable for him. So that's looking like one of their better signings with pitching help.
Well, Mike, we got to look at the schedule the Mets have. Boy, you're going to be on the West Coast back and forth so quickly after Sunday's game. You fly back to New York. You end up playing the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Athletics, and then you're right back out here playing the Dodgers. You go back home, then you're right back out here to play Seattle. A lot of cross-country travel for the New York Mets.
It's crazy, and you look at the way it's put together. You have St. Louis and San Francisco on this trip, and then L.A. and the Cubs on the next trip. Well, why couldn't you have put St. Louis and Chicago together and L.A. and San Francisco together? This first half of the season, the travel is rough for the Mets, and by June 1st, they will have made 4 trips cross country. I guess the silver lining, you look at it, is once you get beyond that 4th cross country trip, they pretty much they stay in the East and the Midwest, so it won't be so bad after that. But it's rough early on.
Well, Mike, I appreciate your time today. We're looking forward to a good game tonight, and we'll see how the Mets do in the next 2 games, and we'll see if the Giants can bounce back. But thanks for your time today.
All right. Thanks for having me.
That was Mike Puma on the Giants warm-up show on KNBR. More coming up right here on the Sports Leader.
We're getting you in the mood for a crazy crab sandwich, some garlic fries, a cha-cha bowl, and some orange and black baseball. KNBR's Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the sports leader.
All right, back on the warm-up show with Bill Lasky filling in for the great Kerry Crowley. He'll be in tomorrow, taking a day off today, so I'm filling his shoes. And some disturbing news just came out from the San Francisco Giants. Jose Budo had successful surgery yesterday to remove a blood clot from his right arm. He is predicted to be out 2 to 4 months, 2 to 4 months for the big right-hander. A tough loss right there. And, of course, I'm glad they got the surgery done quickly. We just don't know where it is on his arm and where did it all come from. He just didn't look good in San Diego. And, of course, he had some issues with the arm. Tests were done, and they diagnosed him with a blood clot. So successful surgery done yesterday. He is out 2 to 4 months, so hopefully sooner than later. All right, Carlos Mendoza finally got his lineup out, so let's take a look at what the Mets are going to take on for Landon Roop today. Leading off, Francisco Lindor. Of course, he's their leadoff hitter, shortstop switch hitter, hitting 185 on the young season. Yesterday, he had a 2-for-4 game going in, so good leadoff hitter right there. Batting second, Bo Bichette. He's hitting, playing third base, batting second. 7 for 36. He had a big game yesterday, 3 for 5, a couple RBIs, hitting the ball real well. Batting third, Jorge Polanco. Of course, they picked him up from the Mariners. He's DHing today. 4 for 23 on the young season, a 174 batting average. Brett Beatty will be playing right field. He's 6 for 28, 214 batting average. Because you're looking at the top 4 batting averages, you just can't look at the batting averages this early in the year, even though I harped on the Giants ones. These are extremely the same. They're so similar when you're looking at 28 to 30 at bats. So we'll find out. Batting fifth, when you start looking at what the Mets are throwing out there, first baseman Mark Vientos had a home run earlier in the first game. He's 5 for 12. Hitting 417 on the young season. Yesterday, he went 2 for 3 with a couple base hits and a couple walks. He was on base 4 times. Batting sixth, Jared Young, a left fielder. He's only had 9 at-bats, 2 for 9. Mark Simeon's hitting 7th, of course, playing second base. 6 for 28, 214, 1 home run. Of course, he hit that yesterday. 5 RBIs for the 35-year-old Marcus Semien. And, of course, he had a great game yesterday. 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs. Of course, a 2-run home run in the 4th inning. Batting 8th, Carson Benji, a rookie playing center field. 3 for 23 on the young season. A home run, 2 RBIs, hitting a $130. And catching today, instead of Francisco Alvarez, Luis Torrens, a catcher. He's only 2 for 6 on the young season. He's going to be behind the dish for the New York Mets. So you got Lindor, Bichette, Polanco, Beatty, Vientos, Young, Semien, Benji, and Torrens. So that's the lineup that Carlos Mendoza's throwing out there for the third game. I'll throw the Giants lineup there one more time. I talked about it earlier in the show. Leading off, Willie Adames. He's playing shortstop. Rafael Devers is again DHing, batting second. Elliot Ramos is batting third, playing left field. Luis Ariz is the cleanup hitter. He's the one really hitting the ball well, 10 for 31 on the young season, hitting .313. He's playing second base, batting fourth. Matt Chapman in the 5th spot, playing third base. Jung-Hoo Lee will be again right field, batting 6th. Harrison Bader playing some great center field in the orange and black. He's playing center field, batting 7th. Patrick Bailey behind the dish today, catching Landon Roop. He's hitting 8th. And Gerard Encarnacion is playing first base as Casey Schmidt's lower back is still bothering him. Adames, Devers, Ramos, Ariz, Chapman, Lee, Bader, Bailey, and Encarnacion. A good lineup right there, and we'll see what the Giants can do to get some runs for Landon Roop and see if they can get this third game of a 4-game series. All right, coming up next, my good friend from Channel 4 Sports, Ben Ross. We're going to discuss the Giants and find out a little bit more what his thoughts are, and that's coming up next right here on the Warm-Up Show.
It's almost time for hot dogs, peanuts, cold beers, and orange and black baseball. Our Giants warm-up rolls on the sports leader.
Pitches, swing, and there's a high drive into deep left center. Back goes Luis Robert at the warning track, at the wall. He leaps! Adios! Pelota! Over the 399-foot marker. It just would not come down. 7-2 Giants, and Devers gets his first home run of the year.
All right, back on the warm-up show. That was Smokin' D's Barbecue, home run of the week. Rafael Devers did that on Thursday. A 2-2 fastball he saw from Sean Manaea, and he didn't miss it. That happened in the bottom of the sixth inning, a 405-foot home run in deep left center field. And Rafael Devers got his first home run. Looking for another one today, I would think so. And I'd love to talk more about Smokin' D's Barbecue, but home run of the week, and I think that was a good one for the week, and I appreciate Jacob throwing that on for us. All right, let's get to the phone lines. Let's go to Rick in Hayward. Rick, you're on a warm-up show with Bill Lasky. How are you on a Saturday?
Hey, Bill, how's it going?
Well, nice warm weather out here today. I'm just wondering if it's going to play for a balls carrying tonight, because anytime it's warm here in Northern California, it seems like the balls will carry a little bit. Yesterday it did it in the night game, and we'll see if it does anything to 6:05 start.
Yeah, night games with no wind and warmer weather. You know how that works.
Yeah, chuck and duck, as we used to say, right? Right, Rick? Chuck and duck, man. Throw it, and hopefully it stays in the yard.
Yeah, why are we playing at Candlestick? That only happened like once every 2 years at Candlestick.
Yeah, I don't think we can pull that one up again.
No, unless we want to play it on a dirt lot. Okay, Bill. I'm kind of frustrated. Looking at the first 5 games, or 8 games, the 5 losses came against Max Fried, kid named Schuler, Warren, then Nick Pivetta with San Diego, and then this kid McLean. Those kids, those pitchers threw 26 in the third innings, gave up only 10 hits, had an ERA against the Giants of .68, and the Giants only had a 112 batting average. 10 for 89 with 27 strikeouts. Now, I don't know what as fans, what are we expected to think? Are the Giant batters only going to be good against the third, fourth, and fifth starters against weak teams? I mean, you're never going to win.
When you take that, Rick, you can even take this further. When you're looking at what they did in those losses, the team's only hitting .218. for 8 games. 218, and that's not going to that's not going to make it. And I was throwing the numbers out in the beginning. The top 3 hitters, 7 for 31 each guy. And what Tony's doing is he's keeping the same lineup out there. I really believe he's got to try some different players off the bench, something different, and maybe, again, change the lineup. And he's been doing it regularly. The only guy that's really hitting consistent is Arise. He, of course, 10 for 31. But these numbers still aren't jumping off the table yet. They only have 57 hits in 8 games. You start going down, on-base percentage, 280. That's not going to make it. Slugging percentage, 318. That's not going to make it. So it's not really against the losses. I think it's against the whole 8 games they played. There's no consistency with this offense yet.
No, and when you read off the lineup a little while ago, my first thought was, why is Patrick Bailey playing today? He's batting. I don't even have the stats in front of me because I'm not at home right now.
Well, he's hitting 095. 095.
Yeah.
It's nothing impressive.
Okay.
2 for 21.
All right.
And Daniel Susek, of course, goes 3 for 3, makes solid contact. You might see him tomorrow with a quarter of a night game to a day game. I'm thinking that could be a possibility. I don't think they're just going to throw out Bailey just because he's not hitting. We talked about this last year, Rick. It's inconsistencies from Patrick Bailey in the beginning of the year. He gets hot, and then he has a dry spell. I really thought he changed some mechanics in spring training, making solid contact, but lately it seems like rollovers and strikeouts every time up.
Yeah. And what you mentioned about the lineup and Luis Arise, hey, I'm really happy he's 10 to 31, but he's only got 2 RBIs. Now,
right.
Tell me why he's batting 4th.
Well, probably because he's making contact and hitting the ball. That's about the only way I can think of it. Consistently, Rick, that's the guy that's driving in runs. If they're on, he had a nice RBI yesterday. But who else is going to hit 4th? If you put him at leadoff, everybody goes down 1. Adames goes to 3. Maybe Chapman goes to 4, and he's still got righty lefty in the lineup. And I think that's what he's looking at when you start looking at this lineup. And you could go righty Adames, lefty Devers, righty Ramos, Arise lefty, Chapman righty, Lee left, and then you keep going Bader right, Bailey left, Encarnacion. So I think that could be an issue that he's looking at, righty lefty. But I don't see anything else right now that's hot enough to put in that 4-hole.
Yeah, I'm frustrated. I think that I know he's trying. I'm not saying none of these guys are trying. I know they're trying like heck. I'm sure Tony's not sleeping at all. I'm sure they're pulling their hair out.
We'll find out, Rick. It's still early. We talk about this, and there's no way to slam these guys with only 30 at-bats. And the same thing, you can't slam Tony because he's trying to do everything he can to get wins. I think the starting staff threw well. Of course, a hiccup from Webb. Yesterday, Tyler Mahle, a hiccup in that first inning, really got him off-centered. But other than that, I'm looking for a good game again out of Landon Root. But we'll find out more, Rick, and give me a call on the post-game show. We'll talk more. All right, coming up next, my good buddy Ben Ross. He's been sitting there waiting on me, and, of course, you can see him on Channel 4. Does a great job as an anchor. Ben, how are you on a Saturday?
Hey, Bill. Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just looking at numbers, of course, it's so early in the year. Of course, Rick from Hayward threw some numbers out about all the good pitchers that they lost to. But overall, in 8 games, there's nothing really jumping at you in consistent numbers. What have you seen out of the offense so far?
Well, I think it's just been inconsistent. And, I noted last night when I was at the ballpark for my Cron report that they've either scored 7+ runs or 3 runs or fewer in every game this year. So it's kind of been all or nothing. They had the couple of games where it felt like, the offense is having an outburst. They're starting to come together. And to your point, I think a lot of it is they faced some very good pitchers in the games where they didn't produce as much. So, yeah, I think early in the season, a lot of the time you'll see pitching be ahead of hitting. You could probably speak to this better than me, having played in the majors, but I think that it takes everyone a while to get into the swing of the season, but especially as a hitter, anytime you have a layoff, it's so tough to find your rhythm and get your timing back. And so, I'm not overly concerned about the production right now from the offense, but hopefully they can start to get it going a little more consistently.
Yeah, oh, Ben, I also look at the schedule. You got the Yankees, the Padres, the Mets, the Phillies, Baltimore. This is a tough 2-week span for them. And I'm not making that as an excuse, but this is good caliber baseball coming right at them. I always said in the beginning of spring training when I was looking at the schedule, you come out of the first 2 weeks being 500 or a little bit more over 500, that is a great, great start. You can't get buried, so you got to win a couple of these games. If you can come out of this Mets series 2-2, maybe win 2, that'd be a great start to go into the Phillies. But I think that's what I think they're looking for.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is a tough start to the schedule, and I think to that point, it's not easy to find your offensive rhythm and your timing at the plate when you're going against really good opponents and really good pitchers. So yeah, it would have been nice to get one of the doormats of the league in there in the first few series, but as you said, that's not going to happen. So I think you're right. I mean, it's such a long season. You obviously can't make the playoffs in April. You don't want to get buried and fall out of the playoff race in April. And yeah, I think you're right on with that. That, obviously baseball's such a long season that you want to be playing your best ball toward the playoff run. But right now, you got to hang around it. And like you said, it's a tough schedule, but you still have to win some of these games. And so hopefully they can bounce back today and have another good showing against the Mets like they did in the first game of the series.
Ben Ross joining me on the warm-up show. Of course, you can see him on Cron 4. Does a great job on sports. You were out there, like you said, yesterday. Of course, Juan Soto comes out of the game with a calf tightness, and looks he's not in the lineup today, so this is a serious matter. And this takes a big name out of this lineup. When you look at the lineup today, Lindor, Bichette, Polanco, I'm looking at it as a pitcher. Those are the 3 top hitters. After that, there's a couple names, when you look at Vientos and Simeon. But I think you can pitch around these guys, and I think this is an opportunity. Landon Root needs to go out there in that top of the first inning and establish the strike zone, because those 3 hitters are going to come out just like they did yesterday, very aggressive.
Yeah, and I think the Mets have been struggling, with their lineup a little bit early in the season as well, even before Juan Soto, injured the calf. Before yesterday, they had lost 3 in a row, and they had only combined for 3 total runs in those games. So they're kind of going through the same thing, I think. Bo Bichette obviously had a nice game yesterday, but prior to that, he was off to a little bit of a slow start. So if I'm the Giants, I am feeling good about the pitchers I've got going out there today and tomorrow. Landon Root looked really good in his first start. Obviously, Logan Webb tomorrow. So I'm with you. I mean, I think you've got to be aggressive. And I think there's definitely look, Juan Soto is one of the best hitters in the world. Obviously, when you take him out of any lineup, there's going to be a big drop-off. And it does sort of present the opportunity to attack this lineup a little differently and pinpoint some of the guys that you feel like, yeah, they can beat me, but maybe down lower in the lineup, there's some matchups that you're more, you want to be a little more aggressive.
Well, Ben, Dave Stern, the president of baseball operations for the New York Mets, really put his chips on the table here for Carlos Mendoza with the contracts he signed. Bo Bichette, 3 years at $126 million. Marcus Simeon, who signed a major contract with the Rangers, 7 years at $175. He did that in 2021. Francisco Lindor, 10 years at $340 million. And, of course, Juan Soto goes 15 years at $765 million. I would have to say they really want to win the division in the NL East with this lineup, but I still think they're short on the pitching side. Sure, they ended up getting Freddie Peralta, and we had a good pitching game yesterday. But do you think this is a team that could win the NL East when you look at the Phillies and a couple other teams in that division?
I think they certainly have a chance to do it. It is a pretty strong division at the top. The Braves, I think, are poised for a bounce-back year as well. I'm kind of with you where, the top end of their rotation is strong with Peralta and McClain. David Peterson got shelled his last time. And, Clay Holmes, Senga, we're going to see the next couple of days. I don't know. I think they certainly have the capability. I kind of look at them as being – honestly, a pretty similar team to the Giants, where you got a couple of good starters at the top, and then I have some concerns about the pitching depth and maybe the bullpen too. So I think that, look, they're going to be aggressive at the trade deadline if they're in it, and I think that's something that we've seen in the past, and they'll certainly add if they feel like they've got a shot. But, yeah, I mean, I think they have a lot of questions right now, and I think that they're going to want to see some good outings from, their number 3, 4, 5 starters.
Ben Ross joining me on the KNBR warm-up show. Let's jump back to the Giants. Of course, Jose Butto, with the news coming out to 2 to 4 months. They took a blood clot out of his right arm. But Blade Tidwell coming up from the AAA. Boy, he performed very well on Thursday, going 3 innings, 2 hits, 2 Ks. This is the guy, of course, they got traded for Tyler Rogers, and it's definitely worked out. He's got a cannon for an arm, a nice tight slider. But Jose Butto does kind of, give you that scratch on your head here with a blood clot out of your right arm. He was not throwing the ball well in San Diego, and this is what came about it. 2 to 4 months losing that kind of arm. Yeah. But then again, you got to look at this young rookie who really performed well.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it sounds, I think the good news is it sounds like the surgery went well for Butto, and it sounds like he's going to be okay. So, that's the first thing that, you get concerned when you hear blood clot, but it sounds like he's going to make the recovery in 2 to 4 months and be ready to return. But, yeah, I mean, from a baseball standpoint, it's a big loss. I mean, I think he was a guy that they were counting on. Tidwell looks absolutely great, and that is welcome news. I think, I had some serious questions about this bullpen heading into the year, so they're going to need, the younger guys, the unproven guys to step up that way. And Keaton Wynn has looked really good too. I think that's been a welcome sight as well. So, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting how Tony Vitello uses these guys. I mean, we saw him use Ryan Walker in the 6th inning the other day. And if he's gonna remain as the closer, or if that job is kind of open right now, and what guys are going to slot into what innings, I think there's going to be some question marks going forward. But definitely good to see a couple of the younger flamethrowers off to good starts.
Well, Ben, you and I have talked about it through spring training, and we talk about philosophies, and it looks like Tony Vitello and his coaching staff have different philosophies about the bullpen. You and I had a discussion about where these guys are going to fit in. You just touched on it, and it looks like Tony Vitello is going to be kind of like a college mindset. If he's in trouble in the 6th inning, he's got the lead, he's going to go with a guy that can put the fire out and then worry about what's next after that. But he's got to make sure that bullpen understands that. He says he communicates well with all of them. He tells them kind of what to look for. But again, if he's that dramatic about, I got to put this fire out now, I'm going to use my best, as we say, a closer in the 5th or 6th inning, it's troublesome in my mind as an ex-pitcher about who's going to be up next. Are they ready mentally, and are they focused to close out a game? And I think that's the concern I have.
Yeah, I hear that, and I think that that's something that Tony Vitello is going to have to kind of learn on the fly as well, because it is a little bit different than college. In college baseball, teams will often have sort of a number one bullpen arm and kind of the closer guy. But you're right. I mean, they use the saves get spread around a lot more in college baseball, and obviously in the majors, what we've seen, especially in recent years, is that you got to have a number one guy who's your closer, and certain guys pitch better in the 9th inning and others don't. And how many times do you see a closer come in earlier or in a non-safe situation and struggle? So I do think that there's something to that where bullpen arms often in the major leagues perform better when they know their role, when they know that, I got the 8th inning, or I'm the closer, I'm going to get the 9th inning. I think it's just going to be sort of a work in progress. I mean, I would be more concerned if – here's the thing. So, you got Ryan Walker, who I think obviously wants to be the closer, and he's been sort of up and down, right? He had a great year a couple years ago and then not so good last year. I think it kind of at this point makes sense to not have a set closer or try guys in different spots. We'll see if somebody emerges, and then if that's the case, maybe Tony Vitello will adjust and save certain guys for certain innings.
Well, Ben, last night I did the post-game show, and one of the questions that came up was he used Eric Miller late in the game, and he struggled with a game pretty much out of hand, and then he brings Killian in the top of the ninth inning to get out of the inning, and he burned another pitcher. There was a lot of question marks on those moves, especially Eric Miller. I know he hasn't pitched much, but in a game you're losing, at that time, it was, I think, 8-3, and you brought him in to get some work in, and I just didn't feel the smart move was to bring Eric Miller in as your top-line lefty coming in there, and he struggled, and then using another pitcher to get out of the inning. These are things that, of course, the Bochy's and the Bakers and the guys that were veteran coaches and managers never used them. They used a mop-up guy, more or less putting up the white flag up and saying, okay, it looks like we're going to lose this game. I'm not going to use one of my top-line pitchers. And it was a great conversation I had last night. But in the same run, these are questions about the bullpen, and you and I are throwing it out there. What gauges do these guys have, and where do they fit in?
It's interesting, too, because I don't necessarily mind it. I mean, it's a balance, right? Because Eric Miller hadn't pitched since, I think, last weekend before last night. So, he obviously wants to, Vitello wants to give him some work and just keep him sharp. But you're right. I mean, the other thing, one of the big adjustments from college to Major League Baseball is the schedule. In college baseball, you're used to having your weekend 3-game series, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then maybe one game during the week, often on Tuesday.
Right.
So it's definitely different than the majors where you're playing every day, and you do have to manage your arms a little bit differently and save certain guys and know what's coming up on the schedule. So that's going to be something interesting to watch moving forward. I think as far as last night goes, I don't hate using Eric Miller there. I think that it's more like you want to get him some work just to keep him sharp. But unfortunately, it didn't go great, and he does struggle, and he throws 26 pitches, only got 2 outs, gave up a couple of runs.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, we'll see how he bounces back. I'm sure he'll be available, though, this weekend if needed.
Well, the next 2 games, Landon Roop today, Logan Webb tomorrow, these are 2-year top-line pitchers, and I think both of these guys have opportunities, especially if Juan Soto's out of the lineup, and we talked about the lineup the Mets are throwing out there. It really makes a hole in this lineup when you don't see Soto in it, and this is an advantage, I believe, goes to the Giants, because I think both these pitchers are throwing a lot of pitches, a lot of strikes. You look at what Landon Roop did his last outing, 88 pitches, 55 strikes. You look at what Logan Webb did. He threw 104 pitches. But these guys throw strikes, and I think the defense is going to have to be on their toes. And I think these both games are swaying to the Giants' favor. Your thoughts on both these starters today and tomorrow?
Yeah, I'd agree. Look, I know that Robbie Ray is technically the number 2 starter in the rotation, but the way I look at it, I think right now Logan Webb and Landon Roop are the 2 best starters the Giants have, just the most consistent. And I'm with you. I like that they both throw strikes. I like that they both work quickly. I think you do get a better defensive performance behind you when guys are ready and you're going quick and you're throwing a lot of strikes. Roop obviously looked real sharp in his first start against the Padres, so I'd like to see him aggressive again. And I think, honestly, I've been pretty happy with what I've seen from the Giants pitching so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, notwithstanding. But I think if Roop is sort of the wild card to me, because if he can step up and take a step from a really good year last year and really be that upper, that top front end starter, a number 2 guy, you're in good shape with Logan Webb and him, and then you got Robbie Ray as well. So I think Roop is going to be a guy to watch this year, and I'm expecting him to continue to perform well. I really like his stuff. I really like his demeanor, and I think he's going to have a good year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And as well as he threw his last game against San Diego, you start looking at numbers, 37 sinkers, which were good movement. And then he throws 17 cutters, 17 curveballs, 16 changeups. I love that mix of pitches. I just love when I look at lines like that, and you're so confident in every pitch he threw. And that's where the results come into. 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. And he had a lot of quick innings in that game, and that's what I'm looking for today.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And like you said, I mean, it does make a big difference when you don't have Juan Soto in that lineup. You've got –
it sure does.
It's like taking Rocky Devers out of the Giants lineup. It just changes the entire complexion and how a pitcher can sort of attack. It's just that much less dangerous. Now, that's not to say that they obviously can't put up runs. They did last night, and they've got some other big league hitters in there. But, yeah, I mean, he's a difference maker. And I think I'm with you where I feel like the Giants do have the edge in each pitching matchup today and tomorrow. So hopefully they take advantage of that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Ben. Thank you so much for joining me on a warm-up show. We'll talk more as the season progresses. Great job again on Cron 4. Really enjoy your work.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
That was Ben Ross on the warm-up show. We're going to take a quick break. Mark Abanas and I are going to come on, have a few laughs, and talk more Giants baseball. That's coming up next right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Now back to the show built for the orange and black family. This is Giants Warmup on KNBR, the sports leader.
Welcome back to the Giants warm-up show as we get you ready for that first pitch at 6:05. A good friend of mine stopping by as we talk Giants baseball. Of course, he worked for KTVU for many years. He's retired now, but a big Giants fan. Let's bring in Mark Abanas. Mark, how are you today?
Hey, happy baseball season, Bill. How are you?
It's been great so far. The Yankees, again, those first 3 games were tough, but I think the Giants have been playing pretty good baseball. What do you think?
Yeah, it's obviously better to be on the upside of 500, but they're getting there. And I was going to say about retirement, Bill, it's kind of nice to be able to watch the ball games and not have to take notes. And in a way, I think I can give you a different perspective, a little bit from the fan and a little bit from, past experience. And I love watching baseball like that, and I don't have to memorize everybody's name and batting average and all that stuff. So it's been great. But I think the Giants, in a quick summation, Bill, are a team that's kind of feeling their way through things right now, getting their sea legs, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the manager. They always say that a team takes on the personality of the manager, and I think the Giants are looking to get on a little win streak here, get their feet under them. And just like Tony Vitello, they're trying to figure out who this team is, where they're going to go. And I think there are a lot of positive signs in the early going here that we can pounce upon to, look in an optimistic way toward the rest of the season, really.
I totally agree with you, Mark. And anytime in the beginning of the season, you come out of spring training, sure, you play a few innings and a few games with the regulars. But until you go into battle, you really don't know what you have and who's going to pick each other up. And I think the offense is starting to hit a little bit better, and they're starting to get a little better on knowing what lineups out there. But it seems like Tony's stuck with those solid 9, and he's been doing that every game pretty much.
Yeah, it's kind of like a flashback to old school baseball where every day you ran the same guys out there. And time is going to tell as to whether that's going to work out, and talking to you off the air in the last couple of days, this is a thing where Tony Vitello's used to playing college guys play, 3-4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And he's running the same guys out there. Will that work in the major leagues? Are guys going to need a break? Is he going to be aware of that? And also, you want to get a situation going where your utility guys don't have a lot of rust on them. We haven't seen some of the bench guys get many at-bats, and, that can only go on so long. You remember, I know you're going to remember this, man, back in 1969, Leo DeRocher went with the Chicago Cubs, same lineup, day in, day out. You had Billy Williams, Ernie Banks, Randy Hundley, and, those Ron Santo, and he wore them into the ground. By August, they led the whole year, and the upstart Mets, the Miracle Mets, overtook them. So you had that old school mentality with Leo, and today's players, they need more rest. The travel's crazy, all that stuff. And I don't think you can go with the same starting 9 day in, day out like they used to in many ways. And he's going to have to get a feel for when these guys need a break. But the guys they have out there, I have a lot of confidence in. And I think one of the things to hang on to, they've had a couple of glitches, which is understandable. But I think the defense has the potential to be a whole lot better than last year.
That voice you hear in the warm-up shows we get you ready for the 3rd game against the New York Mets on a nice homestand by the Giants is Mark Abanas. Mark, you're talking about defense. I'm right there with you. Last year, the Giants finished 23rd out of 30 teams. Over 90 errors they committed. Right now, they're under 5 errors, and they're playing good baseball. But I think we got to look at center field. Buster Posey went and got Harrison Bader, a Gold Glove winner. He has played remarkable. Took a home run away when Robbie Ray was pitching earlier in this 4-game series. And then you start looking at the infield. You put Luis Rise at second base. I think he has played really well so far. And then you got to look at, Casey Schmidt at first base, a question mark there because of injuries, but at the same time, he's starting to play a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, I think you've hit it with Bader in center field. That was a nice play he made up against the wall in the first game of the series against the Mets. And he just seems stable out there. And you mentioned the Giants' error total from last year amongst the worst in the National League, maybe all of baseball. But it wasn't even so much the physical errors. It was a lot of the mental errors that were being made. And you and I talked about this in spring training in the case of Ron Washington joining this coaching staff along with Ron Wotus. I think those guys are really going to make a difference as to the heads-up mentality that it takes to eliminate the mental mistakes. And, obviously we had a situation in the San Diego series where much was made because these days, man, you can't get away with anything. Bill, you remember Gaylord Perry, right? Remember, Gaylord Perry was infamous, if you will, for yelling at his infielders when they didn't make a play. And it was a whole different brand of baseball back then. But, Matt Chapman speaks his mind to Casey Schmidt, and everybody's looking at it on Instagram that night. It's the talk of the town on Sports Talk Radio the next day. And, it's really one of those things. You played, you were in clubhouses and dugouts. That's a very common thing, is it not?
It is, and I think social media really pushed it out there by reading his lips and understanding why he said it. And two plays. It wasn't just one play. It was two plays, one in the first inning, one in the latter part of the game. And all he said was catch the ball, but in a different term. And when you look at this, Mark,
more colorful language, Bill.
Very colorful. But Matt Chapman, he's got the words. Look at the two plays he made in the same game to Patrick Bailey. The two plays at home plate, they were great plays. He's a guy that's got energy. He's a guy that plays with a lot of energy. And at the same time, these are things that young players better come and play a little bit, concentrate a little bit more. And I think that exemplifies why he said it.
And, the thing that gets lost in the message, and maybe it wasn't conveyed in the right way, and I'm sure they talked about it later, but in my opinion, you tell me if I'm wrong, what I think that Chapman was trying to tell Schmidt and his inexperience in playing first base showed up, because if you've played any first base, you know that sometimes you got to come off the bag to take the and create more mischief, which is exactly what it did. Schmidt was trying to keep his foot on the bag, make a catch on a throw that was high, and if he'd come off the bag, just caught the ball, which is what Chapman said, then you don't have a guy scoring all the way from first base. And to me, that was a perfect illustration of putting a guy Schmidt over there every day who's never played first base defensively every day. And those kinds of things are going to happen. And Schmidt's a quick study. He's going to learn from that, and he's not going to make that mistake again. Save a run, even if you don't get the out at first because the throw was off. That's the fundamental play you got to make, and I'm sure he won't make it again. I bet you on that.
Mark Abanas joining me on the warm-up show as we get ready for that first pitch, 6:05. Let's talk a little bit about the starting pitching the Giants have out there. Landon Root, sensational game he threw against the Padres, got ahead of hitters, less pitches per inning, really had a nice mix of pitches from the sinker, the curveball, the changeup, the cutter. What do you think about Landon Root going into this game tonight?
Man, I loved it because, way he came out in his first game, and the Giants obviously had that regrettable, we'll call it, series against the Yankees. And you're thinking, man, what's going on? They dispensed with the first two guys in the Giants rotation, and we don't know what's going to happen with the number 4 guy, Landon Root. And he comes out and just kind of picked up where he left off when he was healthy last year. I thought he was extremely impressive. You know what I love about that guy is just his certain presence he carries on the mound. It's a don't mess with me. I'm out here to work, and I love his bulldog mentality. He's not out there showboating, and he just gets to work, and he's got that old school mentality. It appears. I've never met the guy. I've heard him on a couple of interviews, but if he can stay healthy, that guy has the look and feel of a guy with his mix of pitches, no nonsense attitude, and I like it, man. He was awesome against the Padres because San Diego's got a pretty potent offensive lineup, and he dispensed with them, man. He looked great with all his repertoire of pitches.
Well, he goes 6 innings, only gives up 2 hits, punches out 7. And as I said, he really separated all his pitches from sinkers, 37 he threw, cutter, curveball, changeup, 17 each. When you're throwing like that and you got, confidence in all your pitches, it is so easy to throw. He throws 88 pitches, 55 for strikes. That just tells you how dominant he was that night.
Yeah, he was on a roll, and it's kind of ironic in a way is what were we saying leading into the season? There's probably going to be a lot of games the Giants get into where they're winning 9-7 or losing 7-6. We weren't worried about the offense at all. And, then the pitching comes out, and they were reasonably good, to say the least, against the Yankees. That's another potent lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And the hitting is what was not working against New York, and then started to open it up a little against the Yankees. I want to say a little something to add on to your previous comment, too. Luis Arraez has taken a lot of shots from the media, in fact, locally, too, about how he's supposedly just not this great defensive player. I mean, offensively, nobody worries about him. He puts the bat on the ball. He's hitting more than over 300, and he looks really good. And I think give the guy a little break on defense. I haven't seen anything glaringly negative about him. Have you at second base?
Not at all. And some of the balls he turned on a couple forced plays at home, just 2 really nice plays with the infield in. The ball, he went out to right center field, caught a ball over his shoulder. The
Right.
cutoffs are perfect. So everything that he has done so far, and you talked about it, Ron Washington is helping him, and Rafael Devers at first base, and we're going to see Devers out here sooner or later to play first base, Mark, and I'm right there with you. Give the guy a little room to breathe. He is a big league player, and he is a second baseman when he first came up.
Yeah, and sometimes guys get a tag and it's hard to shake. I mean, I remember everybody saying what a terrible second baseman defensively Jeff Kent was. I don't remember anything glaringly terrible about him. Maybe you could say he didn't have the best range in the world, but he was sure-handed, knew how to turn a double play, and he made all the routine plays. And I think that's what's happened with Arraez a little bit. It's like, oh no, he can't play defense. Like, who says he can't? If anything, he's got a great attitude, and like you say, with Washington there coaching him, why can't he take it up a notch? And I really feel the Giants are going to improve measurably with the mental and physical mistakes this year on defense. And that's a key when you have some question marks with regard to the pitching staff, obviously.
Well, Mark, as we finish up here on the warm-up show, the final 2 games here against the Mets, and the Phillies come in for 3, and then they go on a pretty long road trip. When you're looking down the road, it's still early part of the season. I think we're seeing a lot more positives coming out of this club. What do you want to see more out of them?
I just really would like to see a little more consistency offensively. Obviously, there's still too many situations where, the old bugaboo about the runner at third and less than 2 outs. I'd like to see them be a little more consistent. And, what's disappointing to me is, again, it is early and it is a small sample size, but Willy Adames, he just strikes out too much, and he's not that great in situational baseball. In the first game of this series against the Mets, I think he struck out 3 times. And I'm not quite sure if I'm going to question anything about Tony Vitello, and I'm not going to jump on him because it is such a small sample size. I just don't see Willy Adames as a leadoff guy because of the contact situation. I would drop him down, and Willie Adames, if he could just learn to put bat on ball, and things happen when you make contact, and that is frustrating to me. If I had to point out one frustration, it's like bring those runners in from third with less than 2 outs and move the other runners along and keep the chain moving and make contact. That's why I love seeing a rise in the leadoff spot, despite what some people may feel.
Well, I think you and other fans are saying the same thing, but we're going to find out if Tony Vitello is going to change the lineup and push him down. But we got a whole season ahead of us, Mark. And again, a pleasure talking to you, and we'll be talking more baseball as the Giants season progresses.
Yeah, can you imagine, Bill, Tony Vitello not listening to me? I mean, it's just unbelievable. But no, man, I always love talking baseball with you, Billy, anytime you want. And like I say, I got a good view on the couch these days, and it's nice watching it. But I still get the butterflies. I wish I could, after all these years, get rid of that. But I'm just a born and bred Giants fan, and I can't help it. So there you go.
Thanks again, Mark. All right, we're going to come right back on the warm-up show on KNBR, the sports leader.
Thank you, and we're back. When it comes to fighting crime, he's never going to roll over. He's McGruff the crime dog.
Roll over. You're okay, Joy.
Thanks.
And I got 2 words to make your neighborhood safer.
Uh-huh.
Coffee cake.
Ah, the old poison coffee cake trick. The crook takes a bite, falls down to the ground.
No, it's for your neighbors.
You want to poison your neighbors?
No, never.
Oh, thank goodness.
No, for 25 years, I've been giving tips about preventing crime. One of them is to invite people over for a cup of coffee and share the problems you see on your street and what to do about them.
That's great.
You can invite your local police officer to help, too.
I hear they're very fond of donuts.
Oh, that's just a myth.
Oh, well, I'd come to your doghouse for coffee cake in a safer neighborhood.
Now you're talking. You can cut down on crime by not just locking your door, but opening up to your neighbors.
Still, a 10-pound bunt cake dropped on a bad guy's foot could help.
It couldn't hurt. And going to weprevent.org for other tips could help, too.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, Crime Prevention Coalition of America, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council.
Support our troops. We hear it practically every day. We read it in the papers, on yard signs, on bumper stickers. It's something we all agree on. Whenever and wherever the men and women of our armed forces are called, we send our support with them. It's something we all do. And supporting the USO is how it's done. For more than 60 years, the USO has tirelessly maintained a bridge back home for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen around the world who fight to preserve the freedoms we hold so dear. The USO receives no government funding. It employs only private citizens and volunteers and depends entirely on the generosity of the American people to fulfill its mission. Help us support our troops. To find out more about the USO and how you can help, call us at 888-USO-5566 or visit our website at uso.org.
Ew, it stinks in here.
Passing gas. Is there a right time and a wrong time to do it?
Come on, huh? I'm trying to eat.
When indoors in the company of others, passing gas is not only taboo, it can be deadly.
I'm gagging.
Passing gas releases a plume of toxic vapors like ammonia and hydrogen cyanide.
Oh, you're killing us over here.
Every year, hundreds of infants exposed to passed gas die.
What? I cracked a window?
And just opening a window isn't enough. These deadly fumes can linger in the room for hours after odors have dissipated.
Daddy, you promised you'd smoke outside.
You're right, Pumpkin. Excuse me.
If you smoke, take it outside. Don't pass gas. A message from the American Legacy Foundation and the Ad Council. Get the facts at don'tpassgas.org.
Giants fans, first pitch isn't too far away as KNBR's Giants warm-up continues on the sports leader.
Against the starting pitcher his last time. Now he drives one down the right field line. That's a base hit. It hits the pillar between the first and second archways. And then the carom is bobbled by Benj and into second. Well ahead of the throw from Benj is Encarnacion with a double. Encarnacion, he reached out and went with that one. It was a fastball away, belled high. He clobbered it.
All right, back on the warm-up show with Bill Lasky as we get you ready for the 6:05 first pitch as Landon Roop will be out there for the Giants against Clay Holmes. Two right-handers going to go at each other for the third game of a four-game series. Let's take a look at the Provident Credit Union player to give credit to. Provident Credit Union provides smart banking options like super reward checking. Visit providentcu.org. Well, my guy Logan Webb is going to be the guy I like. And Logan Webb really battled. Of course, wasn't pleased at his first outing when he faced the Yankees on opening day, but boy, did he come back and fire at the San Diego Padres. He went 6 innings, only giving up 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. But this is the number that everybody looks at. 104 pitches, 61 strikes. That's why it's so important that Logan Webb, the ace, went out there and battled and got his first win for the San Francisco Giants for Logan Webb. This is the ace that I love to see pitch, and we'll see him pitch tomorrow as he gets the Sunday afternoon game. All right, let's take a look at the lineups one more time before we turn it over to the Giants warm-up show. Let's look at what Carlos Mendoza is throwing out there for the New York Mets. And the first thing I want to tell you, Juan Soto is not in the lineup. He was taken out of the game yesterday with tightness in his calf, and he might be going on the IL. They went in and did an MRI today. We'll find more about it as the game goes on. So here we go. Francisco Lindor's leading off. He's playing shortstop. Bo Bichette, the power hitter, is hitting second, playing third base. Jorge Polanco is the designated hitter for the Mets, hitting third. Brett Beatty playing right field. Mark Vientos is hitting fifth. He's playing first base. Jared Young is playing left field. Marcus Semien, of course, the Northern California great, played at Cal. He's playing second base, hitting seventh. Carson Benji, a rookie, playing center field today. He's hitting eighth. And Luis Torrens is catching today for the New York Mets. So that's Lindor, Bichette, Polanco, Beatty, Vientos, Young, Semien, Benji, and Torres. That's what the Mets are throwing out there in the third game of a 4-game series for Carlos Mendoza. Let's take a look at what Tony Vitello's throwing out there. Of course, Tony's looking for another win, as well as all Giants fans. They're 3-5, and With Landon Roop going out there today, I really feel this is a good time for a win today and then a win tomorrow. Let's see if they can take 3 out of 4 against the New York Mets. Leading off for the Giants is Willie Adames. He's going to play shortstop today. 7 for 31. When you look at all three of these guys, 1, 2, and 3 hitters are all 7 for 31 this year. That's Willie Adames leading off, playing short. Rafael Devers is the designated hitter, hitting second. Elliot Ramos is hitting third, playing left field. Luis Arraez hitting really well, 10 for 31 on the season. He's batting fourth, playing second base. Matt Chapman's hitting fifth. He's playing third base. Then Jung-Hoo Lee back in right field. He's hitting sixth. Harrison Bader's hitting seventh, playing center field. Patrick Bailey behind the dish. He's playing catcher today. And then you have Gerard Encarnacion playing first base, and he's batting ninth. Of course, Casey Schmidt out yesterday with a tight back. So you got Adames, Devers, Ramos, Arraez, Chapman, Lee, Bader, Bailey, and Encarnacion. That's the lineup as Tony Vitello puts out there for the San Francisco Giants. Landon Roop on the hill today. Of course, he had a great game against San Diego, his first outing. He's 1-0. No runs scored against him in that San Diego appearance. He went 6 innings, only giving up 2 hits in that game, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, really threw the ball well. 15 first pitch strikes out of 21 hitters. I'd love to see that. 88 pitches in 6 innings, very good, 55 strikes. And when you break this down, I think this is what everybody wants to see every starting pitcher do. You break it down, 37 sinkers, 17 cutters, 17 curveballs, 16 changeups. Remarkable use of all 4 pitches, and Patrick Bailey's behind the dish today. And let's see if they can do that again today against the New York Mets. Clay Holmes is on the hill for the New York Mets. Of course, Clay is 33 years old, 12-8 with a 3.5 earned run average last year as a starter for the New York Mets. 33 starts. He had 165 and 2/3 innings, 129 strikeouts, gave up 14 home runs in his first outing in St. Louis. He ended up winning the game. They won 4-2. He went 5 and 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, a solo home run, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. He's got an arsenal of 6 pitches, just like what we saw yesterday. And when you look at him, he's got a lot of movement. The sinker, it's about 94 miles an hour. He threw 38 of those against the Cardinals. And then he brings up a 3-pitch mix, a sweeper, an off-speed pitch, about 82, a slider, 13 pitches, that's about 87. The changeup, he threw 18 of them, and that's around 85 miles an hour. So when you're looking at a 4-pitch mix, just like what Landon Root throws, look for more movement on what you see out of Clay Holmes with the sinker, the sweeper, the slider, and the changeup. So good pitching today, and we're going to see a little bit more action, hopefully, by the Giants offense. Hey, I want to thank my guest today, of course, Mike Puma, who writes for the New York Post. A real nice interview with him outlining what the New York Mets did with Carlos Mendoza, bringing back a whole new coaching staff and bringing them some new faces in this roster. Ben Ross from Channel 4 Cron did a nice job breaking down the Giants. And, of course, Mark Abanas, my good friend, as we talk baseball, and we'll be talking to Mark as well as Ben throughout the year. Coming up next is the Giants pregame show. Kerry Crowley will be joining you tomorrow on the warm-up show. Of course, I'll be doing the extra inning post-game show tonight. I sat down with Kai Correa. He's now the bench coach for Carlos Mendoza. Of course, he was with Stephen Vogt for 2 years in Cleveland. And, of course, we remember him when he was with Gabe Kapler for the 3 years he was here. Sat down with him, a good friend. I got to know him while he was out here. So for Bill Lasky, coming up next, we're going to continue on this warm-up show, but we're going to turn it over to the Giants pregame show with Dave Fleming and John Miller. We'll be right back right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.